Have you ever dreamed that some living things on Earth never existed or suddenly disappeared? For example, have you ever thought about what would happen if dogs, elephants, snakes, or grasshoppers never existed? Now let's think about bees. What would the world be like without bees? Are you saying we couldn't just eat honey? Then you will be quite surprised when you watch our video. Most of us have some kind of relationship with bees, but their most important relationship is with flowers. That is, flowering plants. Most plants reproduce by pollination, which is the transfer of pollen from male organs to female organs. Plants are particularly dependent on pollinator animals, such as bees, to perform this work. To collect nectar, bees visit flowers that attract them with their vibrant colors and pleasant scents. After collecting the nectar, they move on to another flower, carrying the pollen that clings to them with them. They leave some of this pollen on other flowers they visit. In this process, the bees are fed, and at the same time, the reproduction of flowering plants is ensured. In fact, it is not just honey that feeds people. It is this process of pollination. Because bees pollinate 90% of 4 out of every 5 plants that feed the world's population. What would happen if there were no bees? This question has a much broader and deeper impact than we think. If bees suddenly disappeared, we would not only be left without honey, many flowering plant species would also disappear from the face of the earth. As a result, herbivorous animal species that fed on these plants would disappear, and then carnivorous species that fed on them would also begin to become extinct. In other words, if there were no bees, the most critical link of the food chain would be broken, and this chain would disintegrate in a short time. Hundreds of plant species, such as apple, melon, watermelon, broccoli, cucumber, carrot, and almond, then the birds, reptiles, and mammals that feed on these plants, and eventually, people who fed on these animals would starve. There has been a truly alarming decline in the number of bees in recent years. In fact, some bee species are extinct in some places. For example, 40% of bees have disappeared in the USA in the last 15 years. If we continue to warm the earth, disrupt the ecological balance, and use chemicals in agriculture, the question we asked at the beginning of the article, I wonder, will become a painful reality. The world will not only remain without honey, many species and their primary food sources will also disappear. Scientists are trying to produce some alternatives against the frightening consequences of the decrease in the number of bees. Mini drones that will pollinate flowering plants are one of them. These drones provide artificial pollination by carrying pollen, which bees easily carry from one flower to another with sticky substances. However, for now, it seems difficult for these drones to replace real bees. In addition, some researchers are trying to support natural populations by growing bee colonies in a laboratory environment. However, these initiatives are not yet widespread and effective enough. It is possible to find examples even in our current period to understand how ecosystems will be affected in the absence of bees. The decrease in bee populations causes the decrease in plant diversity, the degradation of natural habitats, and the threat to biodiversity. Additionally, bees are not only pollinators but also perform many other functions that are critical to the overall health of ecosystems. Therefore, we need to take urgent steps to protect bees and increase their numbers. These steps include reducing chemicals used in agriculture, protecting natural habitats, and improving the living conditions of bees. In addition, it is of great importance to support local beekeeping activities and raise awareness about the importance of bees. In conclusion, bees are small but of great importance to ecosystems and human life. The absence of bees leads not only to the loss of honey, but also to the disruption of our entire food production system and natural balance. That's why we must do all we can to protect bees and understand their indispensable role on our planet. Without bees, the world would be a very different and challenging place indeed. Let's realize before it's too late how important these little creatures are for our planet and all living things on it.